All right, welcome back. I'm Bill Quinn. I am delighted today to be joined by Juan Savin and Sheila Holm. Many have noticed that Sheila and I have been doing some work over the last few weeks to really help educate folks on her writings. And Juan, I know you have been traveling the world on a number of different initiatives, and we thought this would be a good time to catch up and hear your latest thoughts on where we are, perhaps some of the things happening with the key players that we're trying to watch out for, like Tina Peters and others. So let me turn it over to you guys.
Well, Tina, I've heard people say rots in jail. That's not true. Tina's a tough cookie. Um, she languishes, but she's vibrant, and God has a handle on this. Um, so we had a situation, a plan where she was supposed to be released from prison on or before her birthday. It was agreed to by all the various parties, and then at the last second, something happened over at Main Justice, and it was thwarted. Um, I actually do get the logic of the various parties. It's painful, but she didn't get released on her birthday, and she was of the understanding that that was going to happen. So when it didn't, of course, that just brutal, and thought we had it sorted out a couple of times since, but it hasn't happened. So um, with what President Trump is doing right now, he mentioned about a week ago that he was days away from signing an executive order concerning paper ballots and mail-in votes. I had a team of people that put together a proposed executive order regarding the hand count paper ballot, everything that would need to be done in order to implement that. And that 17-page proposal has been out floating around since we released it late March. The reason that we did it is because I'd seen another proposal that was there from before Trump won the election, and I thought it was extremely inadequate to the task. And so we had pretty good experts that understand this terrain pretty well put together something that I think is actually astounding. The president mentioned he was having his legal team go through what they wanted to do, and we've been told on the backside that they are using what we presented as the skeleton of what they're going to do, and that it's very close to what the finished product will look like. Um, and you have to picture what will be the impact nationally and even internationally at the moment that President Trump signs this. He's going to say no machines, nothing, not one, nothing involved in the vote count tally, and he's going to order that the voter rolls be restarted. No existing voter rolls, which you can't fix; they're too corrupted. Um, he can only do that down to the state, county, municipal level uh, under one circumstance, and that's if you declare a national emergency regarding elections and election process, and then mandate how those elections are going to be conducted and held. And otherwise, states' rights and all the issues that are the reason why Tina is still in prison in Colorado stay in play. In the context of a national emergency, he can suspend all the other election procedures and processes and do what is outlined in that executive order that we've put a proposal in on. Um, Clean voter rolls, no mail-in ballots except in extreme cases, well documented, as well as military. Um, uh, it will it will so screw things up for those people that have been manipulating elections, stealing elections, um, that they won't be able to do what they've done. America will go hard red. Even places like LA, LA County, will be seen for what they actually are. It's a very red county, and it's only through fraud that it has, got any Democrats in there. The Marxist Bath mayor would never have got in except through the election manipulation. And we have the information. Remember, we have the people who actually handle the electronic side of the vote manipulation to match and coordinate with the fraudulent paper ballots that were put in through the system. We have those people who did it from Serbia in 2020 in physical protective custody here in the U.S. and have since a couple months after Trump took office. That's extremely important because we're going to go back and deal with 2020 still. It's not over yet. And when we do that, those people that stole the election, many of them are going to go to Gitmo. And by the way, Gitmo got hit by a Cat 5 storm the other day, went right over the top of it.
Right.
No problem. Third strongest tropical storm to hit the U.S. ever, and in the Atlantic ever, and it avoided the U.S. Went back out to sea. But Gitmo was set up for Cat 7, so they weren't even. They all they did is sweep the streets and polish the buildings. They're all shiny new. They'll wash them off and be right back on it. The only thing that really got hurt much was the movie theater, which is outdoors, and it has real movie theater seats and a big screen, and it got tossed around a little bit. They'll polish it off, put it back up. That's just for the guards and their families. The guests at Gitmo don't get to go to the movie. And so there's a lot coming there. But Tina, in her situation, if we can't get her out with the habeas corpus, which is the latest thing, the judge is supposed to rule on that even today, I believe. If for any reason he burbles and doesn't decide that Tina needs to be released on bail, as the executive order is issued by Trump concerning election operations for 2026, a national election emergency. Within the context of that and the stolen elections from 2020 and the actions and activities over it, Homeland Security, the various agencies, etc., Office of Director of National Intelligence, prior to Tulsi coming in, if the judge decides not to release Tina on bail, Trump can then, within the context of that national emergency, which is days away at the most, go in and take custody of Tina as an expert witness on the whistleblowing. And by the way, in her county, Mesa County, the records which she preserved before and after the trusted build by Dominion are in large measure what was used as the reference material to prove that the materials and information that the people who were taken into protective custody came into the United States, who talked about how they used their systems to manipulate elections. What Tina has is the Rosetta Stone, and we can do comparative analysis and show that this was in fact what was going on. That elections were being electronically manipulated, and a lot of that coming out of Colorado to the proofs for the rest of the country. So Tina will be a very valuable witness, and her assistance will be greatly appreciated. And within the context of a national emergency, the President Trump can then take action that normal states' rights will not, they'll be suspended in that national emergency, and you just go take custody of Tina. And I expect that's exactly what he intends and what will happen if the habeas corpus doesn't get Tina free on bail almost immediately here today.
It's been noted frequently here in Georgia in the last few weeks that Trump on a couple occasions, maybe more, has mentioned specifically looking into the ballots in Fulton County, because Fulton County seems to be the one of the cruxes of the issue, one of the places that there's something being hidden, being kept under wraps. You can imagine how welcome, how amazing this next step could be to the folks that have worked so long here in Georgia to uncover this stuff, struggled and put their own welfare at stake in some cases to try to find out what happened. So this will be amazing for Georgia.
Well, Joe Hoff did something over at Gateway Pundit the other day. He did a little video. He's a certified accountant, and so he does these complex accounting analysis for companies, and he's been very clear. In what has been presented in Georgia, what happened there, it's an impossibility that fraud wasn't involved, and that the courts, that the election officials allowed this to occur and didn't do anything to stop it or to get to the bottom line. It's a fraud upon the people. It violates the civil rights of every voter who's a legitimate voter to have their votes diluted through fraud, and then to put people into office who are not the will of the people.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia, it's justice is coming. That's all I can say. And it's only a matter of time now. And people will go to jail to fraud the vote in that way. It's treasonous and traitorous to your community, to your state, to the country. But part of the thing that a lot of the people involved here are not dialing into the equation is that their actions were in collusion with nation state foreign actors, specifically people out of Venezuela, which we're getting ready to go in and start polishing off a few places there in a few hours. And then the people from Venezuela, when their situation there started to come completely off tracks, they couldn't even function there, they exported their vote manipulation mechanisms to Serbia. And one of the things that's not widely known, and it'll come out over the next months and years, is just how extensively our own CIA and FBI, as well as British MI5, involved in what happened. In a second, I'm sending Nino a quick note.
Sure.
Let's see here. He's trying to reach me there. 20. There we go. All right, I apologize.
No worries.
He was calling, and he'd call again and interrupt our podcast. So you had intelligence agencies colluding for a globalist objective, including U.S. citizens and agency heads. That's what'll come out. When the vote system was moved from Venezuela control system to Serbia in 2018-19, the server farm was set up there. The building that server farm was set up in was jointly owned by Brennan, our head of CIA, retired at that point in time because it was during the Trump administration, and he was CIA director during Obama, but also the wealthiest man in Serbia. They owned the building jointly, had it set up with servers, and it was used to control the election. But before the 2020 election, they had to test the system because it was a new location.
Mm-hmm.
So they cooked the South African election and put in Ramaphosa. And by the way, Maduro in Venezuela, the Justice Department here in the U.S., because of all of the crimes which have been uncovered that he was involved in, drug running, terror, stealing the election in Venezuela, murder and terror of the Venezuelan people. We have a $50 million bounty on his head, and we're going to capture him and bring him back to the U.S. and try him. That's why we have everything staged, ready to go in Venezuela right now. And we're going to systematically pick apart their military bases where he's trying to export terror across the world and hold his own people, just like we're taking out the drug boats. And we've got guys ready to go in and occupy in Caracas and take over the ports and help the Venezuelan people, and to capture Maduro and bring him to justice here in the U.S., just like we've done other leaders at different times. Things like what happened in Panama and other places. And then once we get Venezuela taken care of, we're going to go to South Africa. And Justice Department is already looking at a criminal indictment of him and a similar arrest warrant for him for all of the crimes done across Africa out of South Africa with the billionaires operating there. Mm-hmm. Then within all that context, Trump issues this executive order concerning hand count paper ballots, no mail-ins, in the context of a national emergency. These people aren't sitting on their hands, but if anybody wonders just how serious this moment is or how serious what's about to happen is going to be, Trump, a couple days ago, announced that he was having the National Guard set up fast reaction groups in every state in the country, 500 troops or more, and to be done by January 1st. But there's some states that are already ready to go. And of course, you know, looking at civil unrest, not civil war,
right? Civil
unrest. We're avoiding civil war and going, and we will have some problems with civil unrest. Well, what else is going on? At the same time, last week, it was made public that a assassin had been hired, I think it was for 42 or 48,000, to kill Pam Bondi. And that was thwarted and the person taken into custody. But subsequent to that, Pam Bondi and a number of other agency heads, people in critical infrastructure positions, were moved to military bases, Tulsi Gabbard and others, for their protection. And there have been just a few tiny reports about that, but not the big ones. But that is in preparation for other actions that are yet to come. And as we continue to mature in this over the next days, weeks, months, those that would do harm to people like Pam Bondi from Venezuela, where the arrest warrant is going to be enforced, and we're going to pick up Maduro whether he likes it or not. We're going to secure the home front and make sure our leadership is safe. And it's about to get kinetic. And so some of these people will show themselves. Some people very foolishly will show themselves on the wrong side here on U.S. soil, and they'll get picked up on federal crimes, not, local, municipal, county, or state crimes. They will be charged federally with sentencing guidelines that are mandatory and no time off. They will serve their time. And some of the stuff that they're going to get picked up on, if they're going to go out and demonstrate and do stuff, it's going to have long horizons. But we'll get the streets cleared, we'll get things sorted out, and bring stability back to the country, because it is an unstable situation right now.
Yeah. We reported in the last couple of weeks on the briefing that was given to President Trump, in which the folks reported what they were terming Riot Inc., which is a funded set of organizations meant to make things look one way, look like, organic protests, but in fact are, it's some of the normal players that we've come to know are the bad guys, the Arabellas, the Soroses, Tides organization. So you just got through mentioning that as this turns kinetic, this is not civil war. This is, perhaps they would like it to be, the bad guys, but it is not. It is fomented. It is created for our vision to try to make, I assume, make people feel more unsteady. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, remember, the Obamas were made executive producers on a series showing America falling into civil war. And
Yep.
that's not as far-fetched as you might think, because if you remember the friends of the president, like Job's advisors, I call them, they showed up on December 18th of 2020 at the White House. Patrick Byrne, Joe and Mike Flynn, Sidney Powell, some of the president's attorneys, Giuliani, Cipollone, and they kind of had a setup situation. They blindsided Trump, showed up at the White House, supposedly on a tour, ended up spending 5 hours talking to him and trying to convince him that because the executive order 13848 had not been complied with concerning foreign interference in the elections, and reporting to the president within 45 days of every federal election any information concerning foreign interference, Director Radcliffe of the Office of Director of National Intelligence, which is the office Tulsi holds now, did not submit that report 45 days after. 3 days earlier, on the 42nd day, he announced to media in interviews that there was agency heads inside Homeland Security who had refused to give him their work product concerning foreign interference. Therefore, he couldn't issue the report. The proper thing for him to have done would have been to provide, it's an interim report anyway, to provide what he had from the sources that were reporting to him, and then note that certain agency heads were not submitting their work product. And then immediately, within just a day or two, Congress could call those agency heads and interview them on what basis, what legal basis were they obstructing the flow of information to the President of the United States concerning foreign interference? And was that within their job description? Remember, they're not king. They just work there. They have to provide that product. It was under an executive order. Who's in charge here? And but Radcliffe didn't provide even an interim report, as he should have. And so when Congress voted on January 6th, when Trump asked Americans to be present to observe what was going on, they voted to confirm the election results with Biden being the president without any information on whether or not there was foreign interference. Now we know. We're learning more by the hour about the foreign interference that put Biden into office and the cabal behind that, the election fraud behind that. So with that in mind, we're now entering a phase where we're going to move into arrests of those people that stole the 2020 election from inside our own government, collusively with foreign governments, working with them and their agents. And we're going to tear down the nation state mechanisms where they were using, Cuba runs Venezuela, has for decades. And it was Cuban agents who supervised the election fraud in 2020. And those people, and before. And the people have given us statements that they frauded the elections in the United States plus 71 other countries. So with their particular mechanisms. So this is across the world. What Trump's doing, what Trump's plan is to provide two things absolutely before he leaves office during his time here in this world in public office. Number one, return an honest voting system to the American people. where your vote is counted, it's not diluted, it's not thrown in the garbage, and somebody else isn't voting against you with fraudulent ballots, etc. So an honest vote for every American citizen that wants to vote. Then the second thing is honest money, and an end to this fakery related to how our money is created and how the government accesses it and spends it. So that's this war between the Treasury and the Federal Reserve, which is a globalist operation, international Federal Reserve System,
Yep.
run out of the city of London, the banks there. So, and part of that, and this is why some of the imagery, that Sheila brings up is so important. When you go to the Faith Monument, it has four sides to it. And the one side that I think is the most important in this part of this operation, all four are beautiful, have important messages, but the foot on the neck and head of the tyrant with a crown on its head, the lion, the emblem of the British Commonwealth, skinned and worn as a nice warm covering, use it for a rug. And Sheila, you could probably elaborate on that. I mean, these people that came here covenanted with God for a nation that would be involved in serving God, raising children in a godly fashion, and then evangelizing this nation and the world. And that's, if you're going to survive what's coming, it's because you're in alignment with the covenant of the original pilgrims. Forget even the Constitution. The Constitution came along. So, anything you want to add to that, Sheila?
You were cut off after Constitution, so I don't know if we missed part.
Well, I apologize. I got calls coming in that are kind of screwing with me, and it mutes me out when they come in. So I apologize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got into the depth yesterday of the 1607 first landing because I've been judged repeatedly that I'm not cooperative with the 1607 first landing. And I said, well, they came a long time after Christopher Columbus. And and in the first landing, we put the declaration out that people have been reading and praying over each day. I found out throughout the Midwest, people are bringing it into the Bible studies and declaring it and praying over it again. And it connects us right with England. And the thing that was key for the Pilgrims was to be separate and set apart in this world. And they had grooming of the children. The fathers who were teaching the children to say the Lord's Prayer in English, once William Tyndale transcribed the Bible into English and smuggled it back into England, they were burning the fathers in oil and keeping the women and the children for themselves. And none of this that we're experiencing right now in America is brand new. Everybody thinks that this is so shocking what's happening in America, but the Pilgrims already knew. And for all these years, I've said the Civil War soldiers knew. And then I found the Civil War soldier monument that was built in 1865. They laid the cornerstone, and it was up in 1869, 20 years before the Faith Monument. But you can tell all those believing people who made it out of concrete and got it up immediately, they knew the exact form of the Faith Monument.
And there we are. There's both of those monuments that you're each referring to. If you want to comment on those, Sheila.
Well, I was honored to have Juan with us when the first time I ever set my foot on the soil of the Faith Monument. It was so emotional, and they'd had a full immersion baptism ceremony the day before, and a dog was baptized with the owner. And every time the dog heard people talking instead of listening about the Faith Monument, the dog walked up to the people and barked at the people. That's the difference when you're tight with the Father and you're not tight with the Father, even when your dog is. But this is what Juan was talking about as the man of liberty. and the man of liberty is actually sitting on the head of the lion. You can see that on the right. And on the left, he's got the limp paw up over his right shoulder, and he's got the whole pelt wrapped around him with the paw on his, one of the four paws on his left arm. And then the humor is that those stand-up lion structures are also the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers. And they're both positioned on the sides of the menorah on the Israel flag before they went to the double triangles that they're under now. And so it's so significant because he's also got his foot on the word tyranny above. And then that's what Juan was showing you down below, where you see the guy, the side panel, where he's putting his foot on the neck of a man who happens to be wearing a
do that one
crown,
more time.
because they're not that famous.
Yeah,
The
you can see
man,
the words tyranny there on the right hand panel.
And that's where he's got his foot on that. And then he's on the side panel, he's got his foot on the neck of a man, because these kings were made these famous people, but they all got their position by identity theft. The same thing that's happened to us in America. And so that's the difference between what the Pilgrims brought was to be separate and set apart from the world. Everything they brought was based on scripture. And to know the scripture, because it just was translated in 1535, they burned Tyndale and all of his men at the stake. And 3 years later, it was released by Cloverdale because they had to make some changes to it. And that's what the Pilgrims had. And for them to put that together and form those four pillars on how to raise a child it's genius. To tell you the truth, it's genius. And now to call it a national monument to the forefathers, when the name of the monument is right under the woman faith, and she's holding a Bible and pointing to heaven. And that's what the president keeps telling us. You keep calling me the boss. I'm not the boss. He's the boss. And I'm not the most popular one. Christ is. And so he's been very clear. People keep thinking, and that's why I love when they've done these no kings.
By the way, that is the largest.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The Faith Monument is the largest stone monument in America. And while we were there a few months ago, they were doing a restoration on it. I was so happy to see it. Company was in restoring it, securing everything, regrouting places that needed it. So we expect it to be around for a very long time.
And I'm so glad you mentioned that, Juan, because the tallest granite monument in America, and what they were proclaiming about the Georgia Guidestones at 19 feet. And if you could see, people who are 6 or more than 6 feet tall don't even come up to the bottom first section that you see. And so everybody looks miniature compared to this 81-foot granite monument. And 81 feet, mathematically is at least 4 times 19 feet. And so it's just kind of funny but internationally, that's how the Georgia Guidestones were proclaimed to be and declared to be the largest monument at 19 feet.
So as we get into these coming days, weeks, months, longer, if we need to, if I understood correctly, part of this implies that those who cooperated may in fact find themselves part of those charged in these things. Is that correct? Is that
yeah, because they, just because you drove the getaway car and didn't go into the bank doesn't mean that you're not equally guilty with those who perpetrated the main part of the crime. Y'all go to jail together. And if, a murder's involved, you all get charged with murder. You all participate in the same collusive event. These people used the COVID shot and disease, everything as cover for their operations to steal the election. That's what you had to remember.
That's interesting timing too, because I believe it was just today or yesterday, Tulsi Gabbard announced that they are opening a very significant probe into Dr. Fauci's choices and actions with regard to funding gain-of-function research and his testimony in front of Congress, both of which are going to be deeply in question. And it makes me think as I think back, what will the American public come to realize when things become more clear that this was in fact created to cause certain actions and prevent others, to facilitate all this. I mean, people have been harmed. Children have been harmed in many ways by these actions. It's horrific. Doesn't really quite cover it.
Tens of thousands or even up to millions died because of the cover story event, the COVID, which got us the drop boxes and remote voting and mail in and all that in this election crisis during the COVID operations around the world. So we're not done with that. There's much to be revealed, exposed, and we're going to the next several years after Trump announces his hand count paper ballot, no mail-ins operation. Thank you. Is there any salt and pepper? For what's got to happen to correct our election process, get honest elections, and then the other thing everybody here needs to be aware of it: honest money. Let me digress to a different subject here with the money. Don't be fooled with what's happening right now. The reality is, while you see gyrations in the metals and everything else, there's been a steady march up in price with the gold and silver. And the reason is because the paper money and the paper gold and silver contracts are going south, and it's the physical silver, physical gold. You see people, they trade an agreement to get gold for somebody, and they do what's called a contract. And those contracts are not just hundreds, but thousands of times more than the actual underlying physical gold and silver.
Right.
As things progress, it's going to be a matter of people wanting the actual physical gold and silver, and that's coming. And that's why the price is edging up, and they're forcing it down as best they can with manipulation in the markets. But the price is going higher. Silver, if you priced it back in the late 70s when the Hunt brothers tried to corner the silver market, it reached 50 then and then came down radically. And that was because they were trying to own, they understood the value of it for industrial and all that. And they wanted to corner the market at a higher price. If you were to price silver today, based on what that price was then, the value would be arguably on the low side 4 times higher, and probably more like 6 or 7 times higher. So when you're talking silver in the 40s, it could easily go to a couple $100 or more. And it's not so much that people would buy gold or silver because they want to cut a fat hog, okay? It's because they want to preserve their wealth. The way to look at it isn't that gold and silver are going up. At a technical level, they're not. Trump going back to gold and silver treasury issued currency and or receipts. Remember President Kennedy, he issued silver certificates out of the treasury during his presidency. And we had Kennedy half dollars that were solid silver, 999. When Johnson came into the presidency, within days after President Kennedy's assassination, he pulled back the silver certificates, which was a receipt for silver in the custody of the Treasury, real silver. It was a receipt tied to real physical silver. Trump's going to do something similar to that. not just within the vault reserves, but in the ground reserves with the time component. With that in mind and where this is going, think of the gold and silver as having real value, a set price. It's not actually moving. What's moving is the value of the dollars or whatever other currency you might use, including crypto, by the way. Any kind of fiat, paper fiat or digital fiat with no real backing. That's going to go down in value while the gold and silver holds a steady value. It takes more of the paper fiat, more of the digital fiat to buy the same quantity of gold or silver because they're worth less, not the gold or silver. And the gold and silver aren't going up, the paper currency is going down. When you understand that, when you see that, when you're switching, remember the Constitution only recognizes currency as gold and silver coin minted by the U.S. Treasury within certain very precise guidelines for value and purity. And so that's where Trump wants to go back to. Honest vote and honest money. When you trade your life energy, the most valuable thing you have from God above, for your currency of the realm, of the country, it will have real value, tangible value tied to gold and silver. So getting out of the way of what's about to happen is not a waste of time. Things are coming, and you'll want to get back into the markets and investments and all sorts of cool things as what Trump is doing comes to fruition. But for the moment, we're not through this yet.
Right. Sheila, did you have other questions?
I want to make sure we swing back around to those symbols, and then because of Colorado, because I get so many questions about Colorado. Why is it like this? But just like they had specific people move to Iowa because Iowa started being the original caucus over New Hampshire, they've done the same thing in Colorado. And Colorado has a basis of structure that's much deeper that could take a whole program to discuss. But if we can show the symbol of the state seal of Colorado, and then show what that state seal includes right under the top symbol. So those two symbols, if we can show those, and then show the
there we go.
Yeah, that's the seal.
So this is one of the reasons we brought this up, was because Jenna Griswold's comments regarding Tina, and then a couple of astute folks posted this, so we looked deeper into it, and there is the Colorado state seal, and up at the top you see the Eye of Providence.
And now right underneath it, and then if we can show the symbol separate of what's right underneath it.
Yeah. Right there.
And if you want to describe what you have researched on this, because this is what they were using, I think you said, in the time of Stalin and Mussolini for destruction of people.
So it actually goes back further than that. That symbol, especially on the left, is I believe it's pronounced fascist, and it's essentially an axe encased in rods of wood and then tied together with strapping. Normally, red strapping is my understanding. It goes all the way back to the Roman Empire, and it was a symbol of authority, specifically often civil authority in rule and governance. And very interestingly, if you look at the picture on the right, that symbol rests basically the same thing with some nice greenery around it, if you will, rests on the front of the House of Representatives chamber in the U.S. You can see them there flanking the flag on both sides. So it is very interesting that that word, fascist, is the root word, if you will, of fascist. And what I am told is Benito Mussolini's party, the fascists, were named after that symbol, apparently, back during the rise of his party in Italy during the 40s. So,
Now, it's what's important is they're both facing our flag. So they're
yes,
positioned to both be facing our flag.
yes.
Well, let me add one thing. Nancy Pelosi famously, in certain times when she was challenging Trump from the House of Representatives, would wear her fascist pen and pin in her lapel, and was very demonstrative of that, and people noted it at the time. And it's, to break the will of those that would oppose the empire, the Roman Empire, and banded together like that. They're very strong, and so she wanted all of her party to stay banded together, where they were totally strong to break what Trump was bringing.
Well, and if you can, Todd, if you can bring up the last, right above the books on the PowerPoint from yesterday, where we're at the Faith Monument.
I can.
If you can bring up that picture, and she was wearing it, I believe, Juan, wasn't it, the night that she stood up and tore the State of the Union speech and very violently tore it, and evidently was dismissing everything that he was saying in the
Is that the picture you're looking
State
for?
of the Union.
Okay.
I think, wasn't it gold? Is it gold in color, and wasn't it prominent on her?
Yeah, it's gold in color,
Yeah.
and it was on her lapel. I think she was wearing a blue dress at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, she wore it many times, but that she was very much, as a lot of these players are, into the symbology. This private conversation that was happening right in plain sight for everybody to see, but with secret hand signs and pins and colors and all sorts of things to try to demonstratively show who's in charge and how things are going to go.
Wow. And this is now what you see on the screen is the Faith Monument, the tour back in this was done in 23. And there was a little 4-year-old who was Grandma said he'd love to pray with people. And so I said, do you want to pray with me? I'm going to be speaking in a moment. And if you want to pray for me, this would be great. And he would just shake his head no and run away. She asked him, don't you want to pray with that woman? He'd shake his head and run away. So that night when she tucked him in, she said, why didn't you want to pray with that woman? And he goes, oh, Grandma, didn't you see? And she goes, see what? And she goes, those big white angels, they were so bright. You didn't see them? She goes, no. And he said, I didn't pray because she was the one who didn't need the prayer. And so God said at the end of the tour, he said, I want you to go and hand him the microphone. And so I asked him if it'd be okay. And he said, what am I supposed to do? And I said, Father wants you to share your testimony of what I just described to you. So he decided to go ahead and take the microphone. And then he leaned into me.
So I would prayerfully consider your having your children dress up and participate in something that the roots of it, which I discussed, the jack-o'-lantern and things like that, all have horrors attached to them. And we don't want to be part of that. We shouldn't have that in our heart, or even a willingness to tolerate it within our shores. And so we need to, prayerfully consider what we're doing. So, folks, I've got to fly. There's something, Jennifer put up a package, I think it's in there today, on something special she had over at thejennifermack.com. And then as far as the silver and like that, we've got it over at allpatriots.gumroad.com.
Okay.
And of course, if you're looking for, just to protect yourself investment, my stuff is kind of collector stuff. We only have right now, I think, the Gitmo coin, and it's there for a reason, because this is the season where we begin sending people to Gitmo. I think it'll be a fun thing. We're pretty much out of all of the other coins, a few 2023s. They all tell a story. We have something that we're bringing out in 2026, so we're right at the tail end of the 2025 stuff. But if you're trying to invest for, totally to protect yourself and doing significant quantities, bag silver or junk silver, which is U.S. coin, minted by the U.S. Treasury, pre-64 silver dimes, dollars, half dollars, etc., is probably your best investment because it's a known quantity. Doesn't have to be remelted to verify that it's pure, like bars do and things like that. And ounce for ounce gives you your best bang for the buck. And I want you to buy the stuff that we have over at Jennifer's Sight and Mind. It's great collector stuff, but if you're trying to protect your nest egg, that is probably the best buy and will continue to be. I believe it's going to go radically higher because the paper fiat dollars are going to go down. And as Trump issues the new gold and silver-backed currencies, your silver will be right on par with that. And so you'll be holding your values. So I've got to fly. I've got to catch a plane. I appreciate all of you. And we will talk again soon, I hope.
Thank you, Juan. Best to you and yours, my friend.
Thank you so much, Juan. Bless you.
Oh, that was great. Sheila, what do you think? We learned a lot today.
A lot. And he gave us summaries on all of it. I'm so glad that we were able to just let him share all of it, because there's just so much happening and there's so much that the people need to know, but he keeps it very, very specific. This is what's happening right now.